Welcome to Beyond the Box.
Our guests are insiders that are now out and on our side, dropping nuclear intel and breaking it down just for you.
And now it's time to introduce our hosts, Brenda Lankridge and Suzanne Haunt. Join us and subscribe for weekly shows. Beyond the Box begins now. Let's jump in.
Well, hello, everybody. Today is March 1st, 2025. And this is episode 115, and welcome to Beyond the Box. I hope everybody's had a pretty decent weekend so far. Weather seems to be getting better for almost everybody. Tonight we have Dennis Carroll with us. And Dennis Carroll is an author. He's got over 55 years in the field of studying and investigating for the paranormal. Dennis has got several books out. One of them is Beyond the Shadows. Another one is The Road Unseen. And he's got the Sunshine, it's the Sunshine and the Shadows collections. He's a good friend of mine. A lot of you already know who he is. So we're going to get started in just 1 second. Let me start us with a prayer. And Father, I ask that you keep a head of protection on all of us and everybody watching the shows. When we dig into some of the dark stuff that we deal with, make sure that we're all taken care of and kept safe. And I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, everybody. Let me get Dennis out here. Hello, Dennis.
What day is it and where am I at?
You know what? I don't know. Don't. I don't even want to know. I think today's Saturday.
I have to check every now and then just to make sure.
We're on a highway.
It's been a while since I've been back, though. How you been doing?
Oh, doing good. Been on and off. My allergies have been so bad lately, and I can't figure out why. But you know, it happens. When I first moved to Texas, allergy problem at all, and I lived in Ohio, Tennessee, California. And I got here and I was so sick, I went into the doctor and I'm like, my face hurts. And he says, welcome to Texas. And I was like, oh, I got to move. I just got to move.
I think spring can be that way, Brenda. It can be incompatible sometimes, definitely.
It's all right. I mean,
yeah.
I'm allergic to my cat. I do know that for a fact. I've always been allergic to cats, but I love her and I won't let her go anywhere. So I would rather live off of a Benadryl every day than to get rid of her. And, you know, I have to sweep and vacuum up after her all the time just to make sure her hair doesn't go everywhere. But
I've got several cats outside. They don't stay in the house. They live outside. But I'm a family man now. So I have about 5 or 6 cats out there. I don't know where all these cats come from. I originally had only one cat. And now it's like a cat convention when I go outside.
And when it's time to eat, they do not ever let you forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know how that works.
Well, I have one big white cat. I named him Ghost because he's as white as a ghost. Okay. He is completely solid white, which is kind of rare that you will have a completely white cat. But here's the interesting thing about him. I used to have a black cat. And the black cat got sick and died. And just a few weeks before The black cat died. The white cat showed up, so he was a replacement, I reckon.
Oh,
Probably.
yeah,
Well, there
they
you
do
go.
that. I have my opinions of cats are just. I mean, I would think if anybody was talking to me, I would think I was off the wall with them, but they're not. They're not normal. I do believe that they see things that most people don't. I believe that people say that dogs are our protectors in real life, and cats are our protectors in
Spiritual protector.
spiritual life.
Yeah.
So, and I believe that.
But if you ever run out, let me know. I'll ship you some. Okay. Uh,
She doesn't.
I'll be like a Chevy Chase, with the Christmas Vacation, and wrap one up for you.
Every time I get mad at her, I always tell my friend Andy, you better be watching your door. You're going to get a box with holes in it. Open it up fast.
There you
So, but
go.
anyway, tonight, Dennis, I think that we discussed dabbling into a few things tonight. And I really like the idea of your new book. I think it sounds amazing. So,
Mhm.
we'll talk a little bit about some of that stuff. What you think?
Yeah. Well, it's a new book I'm working on. It's almost to completion. Books are like puzzles. You put them together in pieces. It takes a while to assemble them. They don't come with the instructions, unfortunately. Uh, but this new book that I'm working on is called Paracryptidology. The to hunt monsters and things of nightmare. And the reason why I call it paracryptidology is because once upon a time, the community, the paranormal community, and the cryptid community were at odds with each other. They were they were sort of suspicious of each other, whatever the situation was. But now they have melded together and become one, definitely.
True.
And
True.
that's why I now call it paracryptidology. But here's the interesting thing, Brenda. I wanted to get started with this. Ed. I wanted to go look for the monsters that nobody ever talks about that much. The ones that are the monsters of myth and legend, the monsters of folklore, and there's a ton of different monsters worldwide. No matter where you go, every culture has its own monsters. But many years ago, when I first started out into the paranormal world and all that stuff, one thing struck me as very strange, and I know it struck you the same way, and everybody else that gets involved in the paranormal, and that is I call it the list. The list that goes worldwide with almost every culture. You have giants, you have witches, you have shapeshifters, you have vampires, you have werewolves, you have dragons. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And you will find this in every culture worldwide. And that is, to me, a very interesting aspect because it not only shows the way that people think and the way that they look at things, but I think also that at one time or another, someone out there encountered these things,
Yeah.
and they want to talk about it. They want to remember it, and they tell the stories around the campfires and the fireplaces. The stories are still told. To me, as a young child, and I cannot remember a time in my life that I was not fascinated by monsters, by the occult, by the supernatural, by the paranormal, all of it. I love it all. I was a monster kid from way back though. I mean my teachers back when I was in like second, third grade, well, you used to get on to me for watching monster movies, all of that.
I was the same way.
But
I grew up on horror flicks.
but here's the neat thing though, okay, and this thrilled me to no end to grow up and discover that hey, monsters are real. And here's the interesting thing about monsters though: most of the time, they are us.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm. Yep. So that's what I find so very interesting about monsters. To me, it covers a wide range of things. I love the monsters of myth. Matter of fact, and I'm just going to touch on this right quick. One of my favorite mythological monsters is Medusa. I always felt sorry for Medusa because she didn't really ask to be turned into a monster. Okay, she was actually raped by Zeus in the temple of Athena, and Athena didn't like that, by the way. And
Right.
instead of blaming Zeus, who was the one that instigated all that, she blamed Medusa and turned Medusa into a monster because of it. But here's the interesting thing, and you go on to find these things cropping up in a lot of stuff. I have heard that there are supposed secret government projects called the Medusa experiment.
Yes.
And what it does is not actually turns people into stone, but it freezes them. And I'm not talking about like a freeze, like a deep freeze. It sort of like does something to people in time and space continuum, and it freezes them, so to speak. This is fascinating. I won't get into that tonight. It's an interesting thing to think about. But this is how much mythology influences even the more interesting aspects of what we would call, I guess, science fiction or science fact, depending on which way you look at it. In our modern world today, mythology is still with us, and you don't have to look far to see that. When you look at astronomy, look at all of the heavenly bodies. They're named after what? The mythological things of our history.
Yep.
So it's very interesting that we're never very far away from our roots, especially when it comes to monsters.
So, which one of the cultures do you think has the most talked about monsters, myths?
Well, definitely the Greeks. The ancient Greeks had a big thing about monsters. You have the Minotaur. The list goes on and on. You have tons of different monsters in Greek mythology, but also it's rivaled by the Norse mythology as well. You
Yes.
have a ton of monsters in that. Monsters are part of our psyche. They are part of what we how we try to understand nature and the very world around us in many aspects. And here's the interesting thing about monsters. In order for us to call it a monster, it has to be something very extraordinary. It has to be something completely out of the ordinary. Something that's just not, normal. Put it that way. We can also see this in the way that we deal with people. We've talked about, the witch trials before and a lot of those things that took place. And I've said this before as a student of history. The witch trials really didn't have a whole lot to do with real witchcraft. Okay,
Right.
it was mainly just a way to steal people's land and
Yep.
money and take things away from people. It was a way to extort money out of people. Put it
Yep.
that way. It was just a handy way to do it, but they used that as a weapon. They weaponized it. Okay. And that there's a lesson in that for all of us today because they have weaponized not only witchcraft, but they have weaponized the attributes of witchcraft, such as vampirism and werewolves, uh, people who turn into tigers, whatever the situation, wherever it may be. They have weaponized this.
Well, yeah,
And that's
because
what
no
the
matter,
government does. The
yeah,
government is very good at weaponizing.
yeah, I was going to say, no matter what it is, when you sit and you think about it, Bigfoot, dogmen, UFOs, aliens, all that stuff, you cannot tell me if our government has not had a hand in it that they don't know about it. They do.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely. I think our government, the governments of the world, not just our government,
oh, yeah.
the governments of the world have a hand in a lot of this stuff. Let me tell you something right quick. I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you, but many years ago, they tried to recruit me in the CIA,
Yep.
and the interesting thing was about it. Of course, I didn't want to join because
Right.
usually if you join the CIA, the only way out is through the
Well,
morgue.
Right.
You
When they're done
know,
with you, that's it. They're done with you. You're finished.
yeah, definitely. But here's the interesting thing they told me. Okay, when I turned them down, I said, "No, thank you, I'm busy." They approached me because of demonology. You know a lot about demonology. You know a lot about the occult. We need that information. That's what they said to me. We need people who have talents in these attributes, and people who have. Here's what they said. Now, I didn't make this up. Supernatural talents. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
why do you need people with supernatural talent? Because you have weaponized this stuff, definitely. And here's one other thing, though, that disturbed me greatly about that. Why did they need to know about demonology? Why were they looking for information on that? I think they opened some doors that they should not have opened.
Oh, probably more than likely, yes.
Yeah. But that's the way governments do.
They play around in things they know absolutely nothing about. They want to learn, but it's always, you're correct, to weaponize it, use it against the people, use it against, I mean, and they think that we're stupid and blind and we don't see this, which makes me completely laugh. It's oh wow, dumb people, dumb.
Well, it's not just weaponizing it against people, but it is a form of control.
Yes,
That's basically what's taking place with this. And we have seen, just in recent years, we've seen some social experiments that have taken place in our day and time, where they exhibited great control over the nations of the world. And don't think that they won't do that again,
you're right.
because this is the perfect catalyst that they're looking for. And it would not surprise me a bit. And we've talked about this many times before in the past, that they have not weaponized dogmen and weaponized Bigfoot. The list has to go on and on and on and on. Yes, they're definitely in bed with demons. Yes, they probably made dark contracts and agreements that, and they're in deep. They're probably in so deep they'll never get out. Okay, that's just the way they go. That's just the way these guys work.
I think that they, I've noticed they never think about the end game. Okay, you weaponize, say, Dogman. Let's say they made Dogman in a lab, and they turned out wrong. That's why they're as bad as they are. Okay, so what if Dogman figures, well, he doesn't want to go by that saying, don't bite the hand that feeds you, and just eats you? I mean,
Absolutely. Here's
they
the
don't
thing
think about
about
that.
it. In order to weaponize something like that, Brandon, you'd have to have complete control over it. I talked to a guy not long ago who actually has been supposedly in a dump, an underground, deep underground military base,
Right.
and he went into the containment area, and he said there was cage upon cage in rows of werewolves.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, that is a super soldier project right there. Okay, that has been ongoing since before the days of World War II. Okay, um, they are definitely trying to perfect this, because look, what a great army that would be if you could put an army of werewolves in the field. But you got to have complete control over them. Because you got to remember this about a werewolf, okay? And I have studied werewolves extensively. I have hunted werewolves, okay? They are real, and they are a part of witchcraft, dark,
Yep.
black witchcraft, okay? They are psychotic killers. They're different than dogmen. Dogmen might cut you a break and turn you loose. A werewolf will never do that. A werewolf is not going to finish with you until he tears you into little pieces and eats some of you. That's just the way a werewolf works, okay?
Right.
And they're not, and if they ever get your scent, they're like a shark after blood in the water. They'll never stop on land till they find you and unalive you. That's just the way that they are, psychotic killers.
Yeah.
I would rather run into Dogman and Bigfoot anytime, any old day of the week, than run into a werewolf. But how can you control something like that? Think about it, Brenda. It'd have to be something very much like some type of a mechanical device of some sort.
Chip. Yeah.
Uh,
Chip. Because
yeah, it has to be.
they're also, I mean, if they're that they've got to have some kind of intelligence behind them. So in order to control them, yeah, they'd have to put like something in their brain where they can, just push a button,
Right.
whatnot, because you
You
cannot.
don't want the Frankenstein complex. In other words,
Right.
you don't want your monster turning against you.
Right.
And that's the big thing about it. And that makes sense when you think about it, definitely. But that's the thing about monsters. They are beyond control sometimes. And that's what the government wants. They want complete control over no matter what the situation. No matter what the situation may be. That's why they divide us and conquer us. They
Yeah.
pigeonhole us so that they can control us to the great extent that they want to. Well, they will definitely do that to their weapons,
Oh yeah.
absolutely as well. But it is my firm belief that the Super Soldier Project has never really completed. I believe it is still ongoing, and they're just trying to perfect it to the point where they can actually put it in the field. But let me say this: modern warfare now has completely changed and revolutionized within just the last few years with drone technology and robotic technology. We are what I call entering the age of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what it really is, and we're going to see that on the battlefield. Robots more and more and more. Right now, if right here as we speak tonight, Brenda, there are 100,000 robots ready to go into production.
Oh
They're
yeah.
ready to go and go into industry now. And what industry may be slinging hamburgers at your neighborhood McDonald's. Well, they may be doing some other stuff as well. But that's just one. That's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just scratching on the surface, very very little bit
Now
of the
Bounty
robots that are in our future.
Now Bounty Hunting Bear says that she thinks that they are controlling them through like a quantum biohacking system. The body is a Wi-Fi type thing,
Well, they
which
definitely have
yeah.
the quantum chips. They already have them. Let me say this, okay? And we got to always keep this in mind. The technology that you and I have right here tonight is 100 years behind
Oh
what
yeah.
the government has. Okay, we
Yeah.
got to always remember that. We can't lose sight of that because they're not
Yeah.
going to give us. They're not going to share that technology with us, and they're not going to share their secrets with us because they would share their power, and they're not going to do that. They're not about sharing power. That's why you'll never have full disclosure from these guys.
Oh yeah.
You're never going to have that. You can talk about it all you want to, and they may give you a little bit every now and then what they want, but they're not going to share their power with you because
That's
the
right.
government run on secrets. That's
I think
what
we need to
George
stop.
Washington said that, by the way. George
Yeah.
Washington said that.
I
Yeah.
know, and it's gone back so long, but I really think that, and the bad thing about it, like our millennium and our Gen Z, now they're growing up around computers, so they would be the ones that could step in and help break that stuff down. But instead, they're also in their mind, they're under control. They
Well,
don't think outside the box, you
they
know?
have they have not only this quantum physics, but they have these nanotechnology stuff. You can
Yeah.
breathe that stuff, Brenda.
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
mean, you don't even know you're taking it in. Look at some of these weird fogs we've had recently.
Hmm.
People complained about throats and eyes burning and all this stuff, burning their skin and all that. Where's that coming from? I think that they're doing a lot of experimentation on this stuff. And guess what? The number one place it is you want to do your experimenting at in the public.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because if you lose a few, nobody's going to really think anything of it. People die every day, so they don't care. And that is what really really stinks, is that government does not care when they're playing games of how many innocent people are taken out. They don't care.
Mhm.
You
And
know.
they're creating monsters to do this stuff with too. They're creating that, like the Medusa project I mentioned earlier. There's other things as well. The Invisibility project. The list goes on and on and on. You got the MK Ultra. You got all this other stuff.
Yep.
You know, all this other junk going on. They've got a lot of what I call it shadow science going on here. Okay.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about it: a lot of this shadow science that they're getting is not coming actually directly from humanity as we know it. It is coming from outside sources, and it is being given to humanity as a form of like giving them enough rope to hang themselves with.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're prey. We're falling prey to these kind of things, and without ever really right. And here's the thing about it: these guys in government don't even know they're being used to a certain extent, but they are. You know, and they're being used in one of the worst ways possible. You know, it's one thing. It's bad enough to be used, but then to be used for your own destruction, that's worse.
Yeah. Yep. And, you know, like I said, they have it concerns me with the MK Ultra, the super soldier program type thing with people, because you could be that person's friend and you can hang out with them every day and just do places, go on vacation, and all of a sudden they can be triggered and they turn into somebody you have never even known in your life, and they want to take everybody out. And it's kind of scary when you sit and think about it, that there are people walking amongst us that within the drop of a dime can turn into a rioter who just wants to kill and destroy and all that,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, and these things are definitely not working for our benefit.
No, not at all.
None of it is. It's not for our benefit. Here's what I said the other day. We're talking about AI. Okay, AI is a wonderful thing. AI is a wonderful thing if it's used correctly. You know, it's going to be a big, but it's not going to be used correctly. That's
Yeah.
just the way it goes. Whenever they get something like AI or quantum mechanics or whatever it is, the situation is, they always weaponize it, but they
Yep.
never use it to help people. You know, to help people walk and talk again and see and hear when they don't have the ability to do that. They could help people. You know, it's kind of like what we used to say in the old comic books. You know, about it. We'll talk about the villain. You know, oh, he had such great powers, and it's a shame he didn't use them for good instead of evil.
Right.
And that's the way. That's the way the governments do. You know,
Yeah.
they don't use. They don't think about doing it for good. They don't want to do good with it. They may give you the facade that they're doing stuff. Oh, we want to do this and we want to do this, but it's all a front. Okay, that's just like the CIA and some of these other alphabet companies. I call them, if you want to call them that. There are fronts for what's really going on.
Yeah.
You know, in this world, then you don't see the real stuff that's behind the scenes. It's sort of like those old western towns you see in the movies. You walk around behind it, and it's just propped up with a bunch of boards. There's nothing real. It's
Yeah.
all a put on, and
They're,
that's
they're
what.
all a patsy. If
Yeah,
you can do this, you have the ability to do this and this. But if anything goes down, you're the one going down for it. If they're a patsy, and they
I have
allow
talked.
it.
I have talked to people. Listen to this, Brenda. This blow your mind. I have talked to people that said they've actually walked into buildings that are bigger on the inside than they are on the outside.
Yeah.
What's going on with that? See, you got a lot of stuff like this that's happening in the world that you don't ever hear about that much. Okay, maybe once in a while you hear a little something like on shows like this, but you don't hear that very often about it. Okay, because it's very, very quietly being done. There is a lot of shadow science going on in this world that we don't really truly realize. And what it is all, I think a lot of it, 99.9% of it, is geared towards control of the masses.
Yes.
That's what it's all about, the power. That's what it's all about.
Yep. And
But
Susie.
they're using a lot of this science, like I say, and it would not surprise me if there is not truly a super secret space program going on. It wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Oh
Wouldn't
no, I
surprise
think
me
we've
a
had
bit
one for a while.
if they're not already off planet with some of this stuff. No, it would not surprise me a bit. There are a lot of rumors, and when you talk about monsters and stuff like that, you get into Atlantis and places like that. Supposedly, there's supposedly outposts. Atlantis may be gone, but there's supposedly outposts of Atlantis on this planet and all world that are still operational. And the government has supposedly taken over parts of these outposts and used them for their own nefarious purposes, whatever they may be. And some of these posts have the ability to transport you across, through doorways and stuff like that, without any kind of ship or anything. You don't need that. You can go anywhere off world you want to that way with a beam. Okay. That would not surprise me. I mean, this would really not surprise me that not all of this is not real and not going on. But here's another thing, like that guy talked about with the containment things full of werewolves and all this other stuff. They are looking to harness this darkness.
Yeah.
Okay. They are looking to harness this darkness for complete control over humanity. And they don't really realize that they are being used by an even darker force than they are.
Yep.
But I think some of them realize it. I think that's why they came to me, want to know, and others like me, and ask questions on demonology and all that stuff. They realize, some of them realize, hey, we've opened the wrong can of worms here, guys. Okay. We're in some big trouble. Okay. Because we have gone into some, let's just say, agreements with some of these guys.
Yep.
And here's the bad thing about it: when you make certain agreements, okay, let's just say between you and me, we make an agreement today, Brenda. We could probably get away with it and say forget about it next week, and we won't be mad at each other. That'd be the end of it. We might forget about it, but when you make a certain agreements with certain forces in this world,
Dark sides.
they will hold you to it, mind, body, and soul.
That's right.
And that's what you got to think about when you talk about shadow science.
Yep. I also am very leery about anything that has to do with a contract, signing a contract. I'm very leery about that. Any kind of, like, I watch a different show on occasions, and this show is set up in like 8 different parts, runs all day, but they're all stuck to a very strict binding contract.
Well, actually, and another thing we have to really watch out for. And like I say, don't ever sign anything in blood until you get back to me, okay? Okay. But anyway, let me say this, okay? It's not just about the contracts. The rituals over the power is too.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that you're participating in a ritual and you're being tricked into doing that, you're being used. You are part of the problem and not the solution here. Okay,
Right.
put it that way. And they are using people a lot and ritualistically to carry out some of their aims and goals. And here's the sad part about it: using a lot of young people in this respect.
Oh yes, our
Yeah.
music industry.
Even just watching it, Brendan. I'm talking about just watching it.
And
You don't have
you
to
know,
do anything else. You don't have to cheer. You don't have to.
I
Just
had,
watching it.
yeah,
You-
I had this discussion earlier with my caregiver. I said, here's the bad thing. They have made things so bad, no matter what we watch, no matter what we listen to, no matter what we eat, no matter what we do.
Mhm.
Okay. Everything is so bad. Now, sometimes I will go back when knowing more now today than I did then. I'll go back and I'll watch a movie just to jot down some of the things that are in there, just to, um, but I feel like, am I doing wrong by doing this? I mean, I know it's bad. I'm not promoting it, but I want to see what was hidden in that I missed when I was younger and watched it the first time.
Well,
And
some of this stuff, Brandon, you got to understand is a spiritual attack.
true.
And it may not feel like it at the time, and it may not seem like that, but that's exactly what it is. And it has the same effect. Whether you realize it or not at the time, it has the same effect as a spiritual attack will have on you.
Right.
Have you ever been, and I know you've had this happen. We've all had this happen time to time. You ever been spiritually attacked where it just completely drains you? Where
Yes.
it makes you sick almost to the point where you're like, it's like your blood sugar drops drastically. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And it does, by the way. It does make your blood sugar drop, by the way. Okay. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, "Oh, I'm just sick. I had this attack." And I say, "Well, get you a piece of chocolate, eat something. You need to get over it because you have been spiritually attacked."
Yeah.
And it not only reacts on you spiritually, but mentally and physically as well. It's a shock to your whole system. And it can go in different degrees. It doesn't have to be a major knock you down kind of a shock. It can be it's just very much like an electrical charge. You've heard of micro and macro charges. You won't even feel them, but yet they can still affect you. That's what you're dealing with spiritual attacks as well.
Now, Susie sent me something she wants me to show you. She lives out in the country and she does burn piles, to get rid of all the tree limbs and stuff out there. So the other day she lit a fire and she went out there and took pictures of the fire because it was so big. But we seen something in the fire and she wants me to show it to you. So I'm going to show it to you.
There are such things as fire demons. Okay. And let me say
this thing.
Sometimes, and not every time now, not every time, but sometimes you can see these fire demons in the flames. Okay. And it's not your imagination.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me it was my imagination.
Here's how you keep them down. Okay. If you ever burn something like that, and here's a good thing to do this, it's a good thing to make a routine out of this, okay? Say prayers over that fire.
Yeah.
Say prayers over it while it's burning. You know what I'm saying? You kind of put your prayers over that fire, and that will keep these fire demons down because it's not a good thing to stay around a fire very long that has any kind of these fire demons in it. Because it affects you to a certain degree. Okay.
Now this thing here,
if you're doing this and you gotta burn your fire, you know what I'm saying. You gotta do.
Now the minute that I pull this,
make sure you pray over this fire.
Yes.
Cast prayers into this fire. And let me tell you one other thing. At the end of the fire, when the fire dies down, save some of the ashes. That's very powerful stuff. Yeah, it's sort of like holy water, only in ashes.
Right. Now this thing here, the minute that I seen the picture, it jumped out at me. You could see its eyes, its nose, its mouth, chin.
I think we lost a sound here or something.
Uh-oh. What happened? Who lost what? Can you hear me, Dennis? Dennis? Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, lost Dennis.
Yeah, there you go. Are you back?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We've lost your sound.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know what happened.
You can you hear me now? Oh. Okay, can you hear me now? Let me try that. All right, what about now? No?
Nope, still no.
Okay, 1 minute.
Okay. You want me to go out and come back in?
Okay, let's see if this worked. All right, can you hear me now? No?
Well,
Okay, you go out and come back in. You go out and come back in. Go out and come back in. Hang on. Okay. Go out and come back in, Dennis.
okay.
Okay. Oh boy. What on earth is going
Okay,
on?
I'm gonna go out and come back in. Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay. All right, we'll let him go out and come back in. If you guys can hear me, then that's okay. No, Susie, bad idea. That demon did not want to be shown. I'm gonna blame Susie.
I got sound now. You got
All
me?
right.
Okay, we're good. We're good.
I told Susie that's her fault. That demon did not want to be shown.
Darn fire demons. Yeah.
But did you guys see that when I brought it up? It was the weirdest thing ever. And I was like, oh, I mean, took me back right away. But then I told somebody about it and showed it to them. And they said, oh, you know, seeing faces in fires is like seeing faces in clouds. And you got to stop telling people that you see those things. If they think you're seeing things, they're going to stop talking to you. And they're not going to take you serious. I'm like, really? You don't see that? Okay. I showed it to 50 people, Dennis, and I didn't even say anything when I showed it to them. I just showed it and they automatically said, oh, that thing looks evil.
Well, there are such things as definitely fire demons, and like I said, they can very, very badly affect you if you stay in their vicinity for too long. And if you do have these things show up, and you gotta burn your fire, you gotta do what you need to do. You can say prayers, cast your prayers into the fire, and afterwards collect some of the ash. The ash is very powerful stuff because that is where your prayers go, okay, so to speak. And those ashes can be used against skinwalkers. The list goes on and on. They're very powerful, sort of like holy water, but only in ash form.
Now,
so save those. Yeah.
Now, also in that fire, when it started to go out, now Susie has got an old Indian chief buried on her property somewhere. Okay. So usually they only bury Indian chiefs on property where it's an Indian burial ground, right? So after that fire had gone down, she took some more pictures, and the billows of the smoke, it looked like, you know how Indians all dance around? It looked like there were people dancing, you know?
That could be related to that, definitely. But usually, I hate to tell her this, but usually when you have something, burial grounds like that, that is cursed land. They usually put a curse on it for a reason. It is sort of like it guards that land. It keeps people from messing with it. So it usually that type of land has a curse on it.
Well, I think that hers is okay. I think that he protects her property. And the reason why I say that is not only does she get left little arrowheads, she gets left little arrowheads all up and down her trail all the time. She can pick them up and then she'll go back and there'll be more. But anytime anything bad happens on that property, it like goes away.
Here's what she needs to do. From time to time, she needs to give an offering to the land, and it needs to be in the form of tobacco. The Native Americans venerated tobacco. It was like a holy plant in many ways to them, and so she needs to offer some tobacco just every now and then, to sort of keep that where it needs to be. In other words,
You hear that, Susie?
she did.
You better tell Roger to give up some of his cigarettes. You need to go over there and break them open and sprinkle the tobacco.
Yeah.
But
that's a good idea. It's sort of like, here's the thing about it, Brenda. Cursed land requires a blood sacrifice, usually. And if you want to go to that point of actually sprinkling blood on it, you can appease it with an offering. Especially if they're talking about native lands here. You can use a tobacco offering, or you can also do a corn-like offering. But I like tobacco the best. Tobacco seems to be a universal thing with indigenous people. So I was just suggesting, not all the time, but every once in a great while, just offer a little tobacco to the land, and she will be on the good side of that land, you might say. You don't want to get on the bad side of a curse, kind of a thing, because then things can start going very badly wrong for you. And since she's already in good graces with it, the best thing to do is to keep it that way. So do it often, every once in a great while. Just you have to make a big deal out of it. Just walk out there with a little tobacco and say, "Here, I offer you this tobacco, and I hope it pleases you," or something. That's all you gotta do.
now I know that anytime I've been out there with her, I went out there with her on her 4-wheeler. We went all over the place, and to me, the land feels good. It feels wholesome.
Well, she's on the good side of it.
Yeah.
She's on the good side of it.
And it's calming, very relaxing.
But just to make sure you stay on the good side of it, she needs to do a little offering once in a great while, just to make sure, it seems like it pleases them to a certain extent to do that. And so everything goes along much better that way.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of dealings with the cursed land and stuff like that, with the Native American lands and all that. The reason they put a curse on it is a guardian that guards that land, because they venerate that land as being holy, and they don't want anybody messing with it and disrespecting it. In other words, okay. And she's probably very respectful of the land, and that's good. Because stay on that way, stay on that course with being respectful. But don't ever let anybody come out there that's disrespectful. You may have a problem.
Yeah, we did kind of have that problem, but she did what she was told to do. She got something that belonged to that person and binded it with her hair and built a fire and put it in the fire and said a prayer. And
if you ever see these fire demons like that, it's just just cast some prayers into the fire. That's what you mainly do, and just say whatever prayers you want to say. Whatever's you're comfortable with. You cast your prayers into that fire. That sort of puts those demons down. But like I say, collect some of that ash. It's very good to anoint yourself with that ash and all that. It's very powerful stuff, because your prayers go through that fire and filter down into the ash.
Yeah. She said she's going to go and collect some of that, because I believe she's still got some out there. So she, yeah, but she sent me those pictures. And at first, the first picture I seen was from a distance, and all I seen was just a whole big fire. But then I flicked it, and that thing came up, and I jumped back, and I was like, oh, that does not look good at all. Bad.
I've seen those things, Brenda. They look like they're talking or saying something to you.
That one looked like it was smiling, almost like a Joker smile with a.
They are. they're
Pointed
probably
yeah,
saying some pretty bad stuff to you if you knew what they were saying. But
yeah,
that's the way demons operate. They're not about good doing or saying anything good. Put it that way.
right.
Yeah.
it was it was something, boy, I'll tell
Mhm.
you. And then, to have somebody tell me, no, you're just seeing things. No, look. Okay. I got out of the stage of, no, Brenda, you're just seeing things, when I was 5 years old, and I would tell my mother that there's some man standing in the kitchen just watching her, and she didn't see anything. I got over that when I was 5. And growing up like that, I knew that, well, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, because I'm just going to get told, I see things. No, no. Now that I am older, I understand it. I've understood it for a while. I had my grandmother that helped me through some of this stuff, because she was like that.
Hmm.
And so when somebody tells me that I'm seeing things, look, don't even come at me like that, because I'll tell you, you are wrong all day long. I don't care if you're a photographer. I don't care if you're I don't care who you are. You're not going to tell me I didn't see what I just seen.
Well,
So, you know,
some of these things, Brenda, are hard as can be seen with a human eye, but not with a camera. Okay,
true.
that's been my experience a lot. The camera cannot, and sometimes the camera can capture what the human eye can't. So it just,
Yes.
but here's the interesting thing about it. I mean, these things appear in smoke. They appear in fireplaces. Fires that are burning in fireplaces. I think it's a very famous scene where in Harry Potter, I think one of the wizards talks to Harry Potter through the fireplace,
Right.
through the fire log, in there.
Yeah.
So, this is something that's talked about universally. These fire demons, smoke demons, whatever name you want to call them, usually they're not benevolent; they are malevolent to that extent, and they can definitely cause you to burn yourself if you're not careful. But you can get burnt definitely playing with these. But they're usually malevolent and not benevolent. There is no such thing as a good, kind-hearted demon. That's just the way that goes. They're always bad, despicable liars. They're out for your destruction, and that's it. You know, some people have, and we tend to put our human qualities on things, like we do our pets and things that we think of that nature. But we have to understand some things don't exhibit those qualities. Some things have no qualities that we can really, associate with. And demons are definitely that way. You got to understand something. One thing, very, very important thing about demons, they have never been nor ever will be human, and that's what they are. Okay, and they are just a completely different thing altogether. Although they may want to try to be human, they may want to use your humanity. They still have never walked this earth as true human beings in that respect.
Yep.
Um, so they have a completely different foreign attribute to them in that respect. So you can't really say, oh, there's good demons and bad demons. None of them are good. That's just their very nature. It's dark, malevolent, and evil.
Yes.
There's no redeeming factor to them at all.
Not
I had a woman tell me not long ago, said, I pray for the devil and all the demons. I wonder why. I said, why are you wasting your prayers on that? They are beyond redeemable. They're not going to be redeemed.
That's right.
Pray for something better than that, okay? But um, uh, here's the thing about it: when it comes to Satan and all of his demons, they're never they're never going to be redeemable
Right.
because they don't want to be.
Yep.
That's the point. Unfortunately. They're like some monsters I know about. They're not redeemable too. But that's being a monster. There you go. Okay, that's the way that goes.
So
But
you wanted to talk about the certain folklore and monsters that people don't really talk about all the time. Um, what what are some of those?
Well, matter of fact, I was talking with a lady, Romanian, a lady the other night about the striga and the stringle. The strigal is a vampire. That's basically what you call a vampire in Romanian language. The stringo, stringoe actually is how you pronounce that. And then you have the striga. Now the striga is fascinating to me. I think it's a very interesting thing. The striga is sort of like a vampire owl witch. And what this thing will do is steal your child.
Oh,
It will come in your house and steal your child and leave another child in its place. And this is a changeling type thing going on, okay? But sometimes the striga will take blood from the child. So it's like a vampire in that respect. And once the striga takes blood from the child will get very sickly and have a wasting disease and die. And the only way to cure the striga disease is for the striga to spit in the child's mouth. And supposedly that will cure the wasting disease. But
oh,
most of the time, it's not going to do that because it's not going to be very cooperative with you on that respect. But now, I don't know if you're familiar with the Lashusa. Have you heard of the Lashusa?
I heard about that on a different show that I was watching a few
Well,
nights.
the Lashusa is a sort of the same equivalent of the owlish, but it's in the southwestern United States. It's in belief among the Latino peoples and all that. It is believed, but they are very frightened of owls. An owl is a portent of evil and death to them. Um, we look kind of in the Western civilization, thanks to Althena and all that. We look upon the owl sort of like a wisdom, and it does symbolize occultic knowledge, secret wisdom, or secret hidden knowledge. Uh, we kind of look upon it that way, but we also recognize it as a portent of evil and death too. You might remember that very famous song "Wildfire" says, there's been a hoot owl howling by my window now for 7 nights in a row.
Yeah.
That's a sure sign of death. Okay, yeah, that's not a good thing. Definitely not. So the owl is a portent of death as well. Well, the chusa is an owl witch that steals children, and also very, very much like the striga. Although we're talking about two different cultures, thousands and thousands of miles apart from each other. There's no way they should know about this. Okay, but yet they have two very similar monsters here going on. And the striga in Romanian thing is very much like a vampire in that respect. It is taking blood, but it will sometimes only leave a feather to let you know that it has been there. And of course, a very sick, dying child. That's the sad part about it. You have to wonder how many children, supposedly have been fallen victim to the striga. Now, the stringoi is nothing but a returning revenant. It is a vampire, just like think Count Dracula. Okay, that's what it is. But they call it the stringoi. We call it also Nosferatu, which is another name for it. So it has two or three names. Then you may be familiar with the Wurdelak. You ever heard of that?
Yes.
The Wurdelak is a vampire in your family. It can be grandpa or grandma or whatever the situation is, but it's a family vampire. Okay, the Wurdelak. So you can say, "Hey, grandpa came back as a Wurdelak," So that is interesting how you have different types of vampires. Here's the interesting thing about the vampire is there are, and I'm not going to get into that tonight, but there are different types of vampires. There's not just one kind of vampire. There are several different types. There are human vampires, of course. There are energy vampires. or psychic vampires, as some people call them. Then there are demonic vampires that are nothing but demonic evil spirits. And then you have reanimated corpses.
Oh,
Those are demons in a dead body.
so like a
Reanimating a
zombie,
dead body, yeah.
like
So,
zombie type thing.
yeah. So
Huh.
I've done a lot of vampire hunting in my time. So you got to know what kind of vampire you're looking for and what's causing the problem and what kind of how to address it. Of course, if it's a human vampire, you would take it different than one that's a living dead vampire. It's a completely different category altogether. But anyway, you got to understand what you're dealing with, and so it is with the Romanians. They have different types of names or different types of vampires that they have. And there's one I cannot think of the name of it. I know it, and I can't think of it. It's actually nothing but but half of a person flying around with their entrails hanging out. Um, this would have to be a very horrific looking vampire to run into, definitely. It would be kind of a messy one, too, come to think of it. But uh, you've got different types of returning dead, put it that way. And over there you have a lot of these graves that they keep digging up. I was looking at a documentary the other day, very fascinating one. I would advise you, and you can watch it, and some of your listeners too. It's called Dracula: The True Story of Vampires. It's about an hour long. Great, very good documentary, and it's on Prime Video, by the way. Check it out if you ever get a chance to watch it. But there's a guy on there that plays Dracula, and he would make a great Dracula. He's an actor, but he's a great Dracula.
I,
Okay.
you know,
Anyway,
I think sometimes I
he
look at.
sort of presents the story of Dracula in the person, sort of kind of thing. But anyway, it talks about Bram Stoker. Matter of fact, I interviewed Bram Stoker's nephew. Great guy. Matter of fact, he lives only like 100 miles away from me. Where I'm in the city I live in now. Anyway, he's a great guy. His name is Dacre Stoker. And you should get him on your show sometime. You would find it very interesting. What that guy does not know about Dracula is not even worth talking about, okay? He knows everything about Dracula. And he has studied his great-great-grand uncle, extensively. And there are some fascinating aspects of the vampire that you can get into with that. But he even has tours that he takes people on tours of Transylvania and all this stuff. And there's and by the way, in Transylvania, Dracula is like George Washington is over here. He's a national hero. He's not a vampire. He's a super nice guy. Okay, but he's
Joanne,
a national hero. Yeah.
Joanne asked the name of that show on Prime again. She missed it.
Yeah, the name of that is called Dracula: The True Story of Vampires. That's the whole title for it. And I think it's like only an hour long. It's not very long, but it is a great documentary. They did a lot of extensive research. A good documentary has a lot of research to back it up. And it is a great documentary. I highly recommend. Matter of fact, I liked it so much, I bought it so I could watch it again. It was a great documentary, but it's on Prime. And I'm trying to think about the name of the guy that does Dracula. His last name is Martin. I cannot think of what his first name was. He's a great actor, whoever he is. He's got like a bald head. He looks like a vampire. Okay. He really looks like one. Anyway, just check it out. It is great. I highly recommend it.
I often sat there and, matter of fact, I said this to Susie at one time, that I wonder about a lot of our actors, especially the ones that if they do age, it's very little. Like, you're going to take Cher, for example. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, but you don't stay looking almost the same age for 30 years, 40 years. You just don't. So I wonder about a lot of them. Yeah.
Well, I think to me there have been some great actors that have done Dracula over the years. Uh, some of the best, I think, probably Bela Lugosi is one of my favorites. He was the original
Yeah.
Dracula,
Yep.
and of course Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee was great as Dracula. But there have been some offbeat ones, kind of like let's see, I'm trying to think of his name. Jack Palance actually did
Okay.
Dracula one time. He was great as that, and Louis Jordan was really that's the one the women like. He was really sexy, kind of a Dracula.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then you go on with like who was it? Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt did their little Dracula, sexy Dracula thing, and it's like, well, they're nothing like the old days of Bela Lugosi.
yeah.
Nothing.
Well, Bela Lugosi. I think the one thing about Bela Lugosi is that accent. You know,
Yeah.
um, he was really good with the accent because he actually portrayed Dracula on the stage, but he did it phonetically. He couldn't understand what he was saying because he didn't know English. Okay, uh, but that's sort of what gave him his persona was that accent. You know.
Yeah.
But he was good with that too. But there was another Spanish version of Dracula that they did at the same time, and the guy that did that Dracula and he did the Spanish version, he blew Bela Lugosi out of the water. This guy was great. If you've never seen it, check it out. Uh, some of them, some of these DVDs you buy have both of them on there, the English and the Spanish version. But it was great. But anyway, speaking of vampires are very interesting. I've run into vampire spirits. They can be also very interesting in that fact. But it depends on how you deal with them and what kind of situation they're causing. Most of the time, vampire spirits are draining people of life essence of their energy, the very energy of themselves. If they can supposedly go on to the extent where they would actually unalive you very quickly, they can do that. I'm thinking about one of the most interesting cases I had was this lady who got in contact with me. Well, actually, a group called me, this paranormal group, and they said we've run into a problem at a neighboring town, and they told us to call you because we've never dealt with voodoo before. And I said, well, okay, that's interesting. What's going on with that? So here's the story. She said, this man and woman, they were dog groomers, both of them. They had a little dog grooming business going on, and they said this Mama Loa moved into the neighborhood, voodoo priestess. And believe it or not, you have a voodoo priest who moves into your neighborhood, okay?
Oh.
And she said this Mama Loa came over there to see him when she first moved in, and she had a vial of black liquid.
Oh.
And she said, here, honey, take this, put it in your house, and you'll have all kinds of money and good luck and all this other kind of stuff, you know. So the lady, who was a very nice Christian lady, she didn't want to, hurt the woman's feelings. She took the vial, and threw it away later. I told her, I wish you hadn't done that. I wish you'd have kept it. We could have done something with it, definitely. But she threw it away, unfortunately. But what happened was this. When she took that vial, she said the day that she took that vial, weird things began to happen. They began to have weird paranormal activity in the house, sounds, noises, all kinds of stuff going on. And she said, here's what she told me. She said, Dr. Carroll said, honest to God, she said, I used to do 10 dogs a day. Now I can barely do one or two, and I have to go home and lay down. And she said, and my husband's the same way, and there's nothing wrong with us. We went to the doctor. There's nothing wrong with us. I'm not anemic. I'm not taking anything for it. There's nothing going on. But she said after this woman comes to see us, these things started happening. But I knew immediately when I heard this that this woman had put a vampire spirit on them. Okay. Well, let me tell you this, Brenda, right quick. I told him, I said, well, I looked around for a fetish. Sometimes they'll leave a fetish like thing, maybe, feathers and stuff like that. Couldn't find that. So I said, look, let me just go ahead and bless this house. I'll bless you and everything in the house. You'll do the whole routine, and that should drive this spirit out. And let me tell you this. I started down the stairs in the basement of this house. And I had a guy with me. He was right behind me. Before I could throw the holy water, before I could even start, this spirit like to knocked us down going up those stairs.
Ooh.
Trying to leave that house. I have never seen one get, that big of a hurry, okay? It knocked us, and it was just like a dark shadow coming by us. And it was a wind went by us. It like to knocked us down on the stairs, leaving that house. And then all of a sudden, upstairs, I hear a loud boom. So I go back up there, and I asked him, I said, did you somebody drop something up here or something? And he said, no, we don't know what that was. I said, well, that was the sound of that spirit leaving your house. But they'll do that. They'll make a noise like that when they leave sometimes. And after that day, she was back doing 10 dogs again. They were happy-go-lucky and everything. So I told her from now on, I said, do not take anything else from voodoo priestesses, okay? Just to be on the safe side.
Don't do it.
But you have to, let me say this, Brenda, and I'm going to tell everybody listening tonight, okay? I want you to think about this very carefully. And I've talked to a lot of people about this. You know it when somebody invades your space, your personal space. You ever wonder about that? Why is that? I'll tell you why. It is sort of a spiritual aura that you have around you, okay? And it's there. You're made that way. Even animals have this, by the way. If you get around a dog, you get too close to a dog, sometimes they bite you, or a cat, or whatever the situation is. When you invade somebody's personal space, it's not just an invasion of privacy. It is a spiritual attack to a certain extent in many ways. When you do that, okay? It's not a good idea to do that. We need to be very careful who we let in our space,
right?
Who we let touch us, who we interact with, who we bring into our lives and into our houses, or who we associate with. Be careful of even the food that you take from certain people.
Yep.
You've got to be very, very careful. Always say blessing over your food. You know why we do that? Supposed to keep down the poison and the witchcraft, okay?
Yeah.
That's why we do it. We got to be very careful because there are bad actors out there who all they want to do is just all they need is a touch. And it can go both ways. They can either take your energy or they can send you bad energy. Okay? It works either way. And you got to be very, very, very careful how you deal with that. But do not let anybody invade your personal spiritual space. This is a big no-no. And don't let certain people touch. I'm not saying let nobody touch you, but I'll be very careful, very selective.
Yeah.
We're very bad about shaking hands and touching each other a lot of times. We really shouldn't do that. We should
I really don't like to be touched, honestly. I don't.
There's a reason why. There's a reason why we're that way.
Yeah.
It's sort of a built-in defense mechanism.
Well, when I worked, I was at this club one night. I'd stopped there on the way home to talk to another officer, and I was standing up against this wall, and this woman came out, and she just like, whew, right. And I just looked at her and I said, you need to get out of my bubble, get out of my space. You are way too close to me. First of all, you have somebody that carries a gun for a living, do not go and get up in their face if you don't know them. That is the dumbest move you can ever do. And I'm just like that. Just don't, you know, I I say people stay at least one arm lengths away from me. I'm comfortable like that. To get any closer to me than that, and I'm a little squeamish. And I don't know if that comes from a lot of things that I've been through when I was younger, but there's only certain people I will allow to even give me a hug, or because I'm very particular in that aspect. I don't like it. No. I'm a very hard first date. Don't hold my hand. Don't even think about putting your lips on me, and you sit over there, I'll sit over here. It's terrible.
There you go. But not everybody's out to get us, but we have to be very careful, and I think, but like I say, that is a built-in defense mechanism, and we need to pay attention to it.
Oh yeah, gut feeling. Always go with your gut feeling. I learned that the hard way.
Yep. But there are a lot of bad actors out there, and there are people. You've heard of the evil eye, and there are people that are doing bad things. Here's another thing: you got a lot of jealous people out there, and jealousy is one of the worst of the dark emotions that drive people. It drives hatred in other people. Hatred is a very virulent emotion, and it causes a lot of bad things to happen. But then you got people that couple witchcraft with it. That can never be usually a good outcome, definitely. People are going to do some bad stuff to you sometimes, just simply because they can do it. It may not be the fact that there's something they want from you or something, but they just do it because they get their jollies doing that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. There's a lot of bad people. I mean, there's a lot of, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of really good people out there. And I have met a lot of really good people. But I do still have learned that my circle needs to stay small as far as trust. Trust is a hard thing with me. Because it just seems like every time I have given ultimate trust, I get betrayed. So it's not a matter of boo-hoo me. It's a matter of, guess what? I need to just start keeping myself.
Matter of preservation.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. I just need to keep myself in check.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that because nature makes us that way. We have that self-preservation thing going on for a reason. That's just the way we are. And and here's another thing, Brenda. I talk about this before with a lot of people. When you feel something's not right, when you really feel something is not right, you need to pay attention to that. Because that's your built-in barometer telling you something here.
Yes.
And just like you were talking about the fire demons earlier, some things you can write it off as imagination. Oh, I just thought I saw that or something. But most of the time, there's a reason why you thought that.
Yeah.
Whether you really want to be honest about it or not.
Yes.
Where you want to write it off as just something you thought. Or you do doubt your own mind sometimes on things like that.
Oh, let me tell you, when I seen that, it took me back. It gave me the creeps and it turned my stomach. So I knew what I saw in that was not good.
Yeah.
Period. I just couldn't believe that she caught so good of a photo.
It's hard to deny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It kind of shocked me that she got that good of a photo, We
tend to kind of write stuff off sometimes when we shouldn't.
Yeah.
We should pay more. A lot of people say that, I see stuff out of the corner of my eye, but that's just me. I'm just seeing things. No, not necessarily. There's a reason why you're doing that, and you need to explore that reason and see what's going on with that.
I
that's
see better. I see things out of the corner of my eye than I do looking forward.
yeah, but
Blind as a freaking bat. But boy, I'll tell you what, I can see certain things
women,
out of the
women are
side of my eye.
women are super sensitive to things like that. Women are more so than men, and women. And I talk to a lot of women about that, and I tell them, I say, look, you need to pay attention to that. Don't write it off
Yeah,
because you're having those feelings for a reason.
yeah,
You need to understand why. You need to explore that. Sometimes we tend to write things off and just say, well, that's just me. Or I didn't know I'm having a bad day, or I'm thinking about that. All right, we make a lot of excuses when what we're really doing is denying the truth
yeah.
of the matter.
That's true.
So we have to be careful about that. But that's what happens when it comes to monsters. Sometimes, the monsters are right in your face. But then other times, the monsters are hidden. Like I said earlier, the monsters are us. And some of the worst monsters are human monsters, definitely.
Yes.
Like serial killers and stuff like that. But here's the bad thing about monsters, okay? And if you're going to talk a lot about monsters, you got to remember one thing. They can be anyone, and they can be living next door to you. You never know where they're at. That's the bad thing about the monsters.
Yeah. True. That's very true.
Yeah. But, it's just like, well, maybe Dennis turns into a werewolf every full moon or something. I might have a monster problem there. Okay. Some people are not quite so obvious with the monster stuff. That's the bad thing about it. Yeah. But, we tend to think in terms of the grotesque when it comes to monsters, like the Medusa I talked about earlier and some of these other things. By the way, I was going to mention the harpy. The harpy is an interesting Greek mythology type thing. It looks very much like an owl witch too, by the way. That's sort of your Greek version of it. A harpy is sort of I think almost like a killer hawk on steroids or something.
Yes.
It's very interesting in how it's portrayed. And look at the Minotaur, half human, half bull. So there you go. You got hybridization going on again. And when we look at monsters, there is a category of monsters that are hybrids. Like the dog man that we talked about earlier. You have the goat man, you have pig man, you have different types of hybrid type monsters. Those are fascinating too. Look at the goat man. He has a very interesting connection to the god Pan.
Yes.
Who is a god of nature, supposedly. He represents the wild side of nature, you might say, the untamed part of nature. That is the goat man. But look how many times you hear about the goat man being seen in different places and all that stuff. So there's a definite tie-in. Are you talking about a satyr, which is a goat man or kind of a nature spirit type thing? Or are you talking about some kind of weird government hybrid thing going on? You never know.
That's true.
So you got a lot of different connections with different monsters in the way that they're portrayed and all that stuff. So you've got human monsters, you've got the hybrid, half human, half some other kind of monsters. Look at all the gods of Egypt. All the gods of Egypt were half animal, half human.
Yes.
Whatever they might be. They were portrayed that way. Look at Fenrir. Fenrir, who will finally kill Odin, is a monster wolf.
Yep.
The ultimate werewolf, you might say. And speaking of werewolves, let us not forget Little Red Riding Hood. Okay, that's a definite werewolf story.
Yep.
By the way, you know what? Walt Disney watered that down quite a bit. It does not end that way. It ends with Little Red Riding Hood getting eat up. Okay, that's that really ends.
I'm kind of surprised they watered it down. Walt Disney didn't like children. Everything else was dramatic.
Yeah. But it is a definite werewolf. You know what big teeth you have, Grandma.
Yeah.
That is a definite werewolf. Definitely,
You smell
absolutely.
like a wet dog. Uh,
So, but I think it was what I think the brothers Grimm kind of fixed it so that the woodsman would show up and save everybody by cutting the wolf open and getting Grandma and over riding it out. But anyway, uh, they had to have a happy ending, I guess.
yeah.
But look at all of the. But speaking of fairy tales and all that, how many horrific fairy tales and monster stories are embedded in those? Uh, the list is long and very interesting. You have Billy Goat Gruff. You know, you have him. He's really like a troll.
Yeah.
You have a lot of different, and of course, you do have trolls too, for that matter. And here's another interesting thing, Brenda. You have different kinds of trolls. You've got wood trolls, you've got mountain trolls, and I think you've got rock trolls or
Bridge
bridge
troll.
trolls. They live under bridges.
Yep.
So you got different kinds of trolls to contend with. And of course, who hasn't heard about goblins? Goblins and hobgoblins. That's your monsters right there. And here's the thing about the goblin. It's very interesting. I've studied it a lot. It's not really pinned down to looking like any certain thing. It has sort of a very ambiguous type thing about it. It can look like almost anything or nothing at all. I often say this. What I used to tell little kids. Be brave. Be what let the boogeyman look under the bed for you. Okay, not the
Yeah.
other way around. That's what you got to do. But the boogeyman is sort of ambiguous that way. But then you have Baba Yaga. Are you familiar with Baba Yaga?
I've heard that before, but I don't know what it is.
Well, Baba Yaga is just this mean old witch. She lives out in the woods, by the way.
Mm.
And she has got a very bad disposition. And she has she rides around in a pedestal and mortar.
Oh.
A mortar and a pedestal. Now, she'll hit you on the head with a pedestal, but she rides around in the mortar because that's what witches use to grind their ingredients up, a mortar and a pestle. Okay. And she lives in a house out in the woods that walks around on big chicken legs.
Oh.
So you definitely will catch sight of her house. But listen to this very closely. She's got a very interesting house. Who does this sound like? Hansel and who? Gretel. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And this sounds like the witch from Hansel and Gretel. So Baba Yaga, who is not, by the way, John Wick. I know it's familiar with the John Wick movies. They call him Baba Yaga, the boogeyman. Well, they got that mixed up wrong, okay? Baba Yaga is a witch. She's not a boogeyman, okay? She's a witch. Baba Yaga means old woman. That's what they mean. Old
Leave
woman.
it to the movies.
Why are they calling John Wick an old woman? I don't know. But anyway, that's Hollywood. That's Hollywood for you. The boogeyman, on the other hand, that's what they ought to call him, yeah. But they shouldn't call him Baba Yaga. But anyway, it's Russian. Baba Yaga is Russian for old woman or old witch, whichever way you want to look at it. But she is the proverbial old witch that usually will eat you in the gingerbread house, probably. She does like to bake, I think. She's very good at baking, kind of like Martha Stewart. She's very good at baking stuff. But you have a lot of these fairy tales and a lot of these stories that we've heard all of our lives. And what they've been feeding us monster stories here, okay, folks? That's what they are.
Yeah.
They're all the stories about monsters. But the interesting thing is that they use these to keep kids in line. It was a trade off. You better be careful, Bobby. I'll get you.
I often thought, okay, I'm going to just say this. I'm going to give you Peter Pan. Now, the way it looks in the movie is Peter's trying to save the kids. But when you sit and you really think about it, it's Hook that's trying to save the kids, not Peter. And
Well,
when I heard that rendition of it and I looked at it, I was like,
you got to remember this, Brenda, about the Lost Boys. Have you ever made that connection with the Lost Boys and the vampire movie, The Lost Boys?
Yeah, and Peter Pan, yep. Yep.
Well, the Lost Boys really ran away from home. These were boys that nobody wanted, in other words. They're the really sad part of the story, okay? When you look at it that way. Now, if you look at Captain Hook, he is sort of a disabled guy, okay? because the alligator bit his hand off. Remember that?
Right.
Okay, he had to have a hook, So is he really the bad guy in this? That's what you got to ask, man. And why does Peter Pan need his shadow sewed back on? Okay, why does he need that? I don't know. But anyway, so the real hero of the whole story is Tinkerbell. If you look at it that way, she's the one that's keeping everything together. Okay,
right. She's the glue.
Yeah, she's a flirt too, I think. But anyway, but that's the way that goes. The guy that made this story up, by the way, the Peter Pan, made it as a story for some little kids that he knew, and he just made this story up to entertain them. And somebody says, "Well, hey, why don't you write a play about that?" And so he did, and it became an instant hit in London, and has been played ever since then. It's supposed to be the longest playing play that's ever been, and so it has a lot of different ambiguous things to it.
Right.
But you're right. It's almost as if Hook is trying to save the Lost Boys.
Right.
Peter Pan doesn't really give a rip. Look at Peter Pan. He is so rebellious. He doesn't care. He just wants to grow up. He don't want to grow up. He doesn't care. He doesn't want what? Responsibility. And Captain Hook does. He does take responsibility.
Right.
Okay, so but that's the lesson for it. Anyway, the Lost Boys, though, I always thought was the sad part about it. They are lost, and they're looking for a mother. They want to go back home, so they're sort of lost. They're sort of like the unredeemed part of society. They're lost and way out there, and nobody cares. In that respect. So that was the bad part about it. But then you had the Indians, the Tiger Lily, and all those. They were sort of the wild bunch, They were interesting too. But yeah, I'll go along with you on that. Captain Hook is sort of like the anti-hero of the thing.
Right.
Yeah. It's definitely not Peter Pan.
No. and I used to sit there and think when I was younger and I'd watch that, why are you trying to make them jump out the window? What are you doing? But
you really fly, huh?
Yeah. Right. And inquisitive. Ask questions. Always ask questions.
Well, my favorite part of Peter Pan is how do you get to Neverland? The second star to the right and straight on to morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a very famous line in Star Trek, when they said, one of the Star Trek movies said, "Where do you want to go, Captain?" He said, "Let's see what's out there." It says, "Second star to the right, straight on to morning."
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of a homage to Peter Pan.
Incredible. Incredible. Well, we've learned about different monsters in different cultures. Is there any that you've forgotten that we haven't talked about?
Well, there are plenty. just kind of dip your finger in where we're going to go with it. But some of the most interesting, I think, the most interesting monsters are the Native American monsters, like Spearfinger. I don't know if you're familiar with Spearfinger.
I've heard of it.
She is a witch that will kill you with her finger. She got a very sharp fingernail.
Fingernail.
And the Native Americans have some brilliant stuff. I always enjoy reading their stuff. They have a belief in dragons too, by the way. I think the Cherokee Indians have a dragon that they believe in. Also, of course, they have the Wampus cat. Actually, I was in the mountains of North Carolina one time looking for the Wampus cat. And the guys I were with said, "This is not a cat." And we're looking, we found these tracks. This is not a cat. This looks like a wolf. So it was almost like we were on the trail of a dire wolf. This was a big wolf, friend. Or was it a werewolf? You never knew. But anyway, it was very interesting. So the Wampus cat, by the way, I don't know if you're familiar with it. The Wampus cat is a big cat with 6 legs.
Yes.
So that cat can really move out. Definitely.
Not really one to stick around. It'll move quick and in a hurry. And somebody, I remember hearing somebody say that when you look at its skin, it looks silky, but feathery, kind of like feathers.
And also, some of these things have like skin that no arrow can pierce or whatever.
Right.
They're very armored that way. Now, you take the dragon, for instance. Every dragon, no matter what, and there are different types of dragons. You've got water dragons, you've got fire dragons, you've got mountain dragons. You've got what's called the worm dragon. I don't know if you're familiar with the worm dragon.
No,
it's really like a snake. It's almost like a giant snake.
Oh, is that the one that has like these things that come out the side of the
head? It's got a few. It's got like some fins aside, but it does not fly. It doesn't have wings. Now, your fire dragon does have wings, and a water dragon is supposed to have wings as well. But the reason why it's called a water dragon, it lives in the water, of course, and whereas a fire dragon does not. But then you have mountain dragons. Here's the interesting thing about mountain dragons, what I like about them. They supposedly live in the Alps and in some of the Appalachian Mountains and all that. They will lie quietly on the side of a mountain, until they get ready to eat you. And then they'll start sliding down this mountain very fast, like an avalanche, and eat you up and go back up the other side of the mountain.
Oh, wow.
Wait for the next victim. I think this is sort of a way of explaining an avalanche to a certain degree. But it's interesting how these supposed mountain dragons operate. And they're supposed to do this in the Alps as well. Another interesting thing about the dragon is that every dragon born has a soft spot. One scale is off a little bit or something. That's the one scale you can hit and kill him with. He has one weakness, but you gotta find. The problem is you gotta find that scale. You gotta find that one weakness to do him in.
Isn't it supposed to be like somewhere over its heart?
So very, very close to his heart, or somewhere around his neck, somewhere back in that. But it's always like one scale off or something. And what it is you're aiming to go in between the scales, because the scale of a dragon is extremely hard. Nothing will pierce it, not anything man-made, but you can go in between the scales. And this is an allegory of what true armor is like. The armor that a knight wears. He may have the best armor in the world, but an arrow can still get in the crevice and kill him.
Yeah. Well, it's so like our
dragon. Yeah.
I mean, it's like our vest that we wear. They're good at come on, but there's spots in the side that a bullet can get through. you know? So I guess every armor's got its little fail somewhere.
Every armor has its weakness, whatever it may be.
Yes.
That's an interesting thing. Then you get into my favorite category of the shapeshifters. The shapeshifters are found in every culture worldwide, no matter
Yep.
where they may be. But they're not just turning into werewolves or turning into different things. In the Appalachian Mountains, you have witches there who can turn into large black panthers.
Ooh.
This is a well-known fact, supposedly amongst witches in the Appalachians. I have actually seen one night a very large black panther with my own eyes. Now, whether it was a witch or not, I can't tell you that for sure, but it was real. And you can go tell the rangers about this. There's no such thing, Yeah, but I saw it. But anyway, these are real. And by the way, in parts of where you're at, they are having jaguars now come across the border. I know you've heard about that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
some jaguars are solid black, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah. So you have those as well. So they may not be witches for sure. But according to the Aztec and Mayan cultures, there was a group of warriors called the Jaguar Men. And these men were able to change themselves into jaguars and kill people. And they were supposed to be the most fierce of the warriors that they had, the Jaguar Men. And in the same equivalent in Africa, you have the leopard men.
Oh, wow.
Supposed to be able to change themselves into leopards. And in Norway, amongst the Vikings people, you had the berserkers and the Uffendar. Have you ever heard of the Uffendar?
No.
The Uffendar were fierce warriors. They were even more fierce than the berserkers. The berserkers, by the way, means bear skin. They believed through drugs and ceremonies and stuff that they could turn into bears on the battlefield. But the Uffendar even scared the berserkers because they could turn into wolves on the battlefield and go completely insane and kill everybody around them, friend or foe. The Uffendar you didn't want to mess with. They were something else. Anyway, they were supreme Viking warriors. So you have these things all over the world in different areas. Look at China. In China, you have a were tiger. You have women who can turn into tigers and eat their husbands and stuff. Okay, that is a well-known story in China and parts of Asia and India as well. You have the were tigers. The list goes on and on. When it comes to shapeshifters, the shapeshifter is a supreme witch who can change into this whatever shape they want to. You got to remember something about witches and witchcraft. Witchcraft, by the way, is not a religion. It is a craft. It is a profession.
Yep.
Okay. The thing about witchcraft is real magic is simply changing reality to the way you want it to be. That's all it is. Simply all it is. Whether you're casting a spell or you're doing earth magic or whatever the situation is, there are a lot of different areas you get into this. But the supreme test of witchcraft, like with the skinwalkers, you change the reality of what you are into something else, whether it be a crow, a wolf, a coyote, a bear, or whatever the situation is. That's what the skinwalker does. And so I have a lot of people say, we talk about skinwalkers and werewolves and all that, but they're all witches. That's the one thing they all have in common. They are witches. That's the one thing that binds them all together. They're just taking gifts and different things. Now, in order for you to climb the dark witchcraft ladder and obtain this power, you have to do terrible things to get it. You have to murder your siblings or your mother, your father, or your sister, your brother. You have to murder people. You have to torture people. You have to cannibalize people. The list goes on and on. The worse that you can do, the higher up that ladder you go, the more demonic power you obtain to shapeshift or to change your reality to the way you want it to be. This is the ultimate supreme power of witchcraft. Only the very best witches can do this. I don't mean best ambiguously here. I mean they train to do it. Okay, in that respect, but they are the top of their class. You might say they are the elite. They can change into lions and tigers. They can change into wolves. They can change into vampires. The list goes on and on and on and on. Whatever horrific monster they want to be, they can change into it.
I know they don't change into something like a bug because somebody probably step on them.
That would be neat. I'd be the first one to do it, but then,
Right? Crunch. Oops.
but they wasn't. Fortunately, they're not gonna make it that easy on us. Okay,
I know.
No.
Nothing
But-
ever comes easy.
That's what this demonic power does, and it changes people, it changes reality, it changes the reality of your world. But here's the bad thing about it, okay? If you want to look at it from a religious context, what you are doing are taking what your creator has made and you're changing its reality. That's never a good thing because you're going against what the precepts of your creator has laid out. In other words, not only the laws of nature and the universe, you're going against those things. So that's never a good thing. So actually what you're doing is sort of like, thumbing your nose at God and saying, hey, I'm going to do whatever I want to. I'm going to change the reality of what I want it to be, And like we said earlier about people who sign some of these contracts and who take this dark money and take this power to get what they want, whatever it may be. It all comes down to control. That's what it's all about. Power and control and money. Of course, that all goes together.
Yes.
That's what it all comes down to, and that's what these
And
people want
greed.
because it changes what their reality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I don't have to live in this war down shack. I can go and buy this $6 million house and live in it. My reality is so much better. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You're right. You're correct.
Well, and here's the other facet of it, Brenda. They won't say, "I want this $6 million house and all this money in the bank and all the cars and women or men that I want or whatever the situation is, because I'm better than you are.
Yeah.
I should have it." That's the way they look at it. I'm better than you. It's getting one up on somebody. See, it's saying I'm better than you are. I deserve to have it and you don't.
I've met several famous people, really famous people. But you know how people get starstruck? Oh, look at who it is. To me, first time I ever met Toby Keith,
Some people
he said, do you not like me? I said, oh, yeah, I like you. You're great. But you put your pants on the same way I do. So,
I'm going to tell you what, okay? Let me put this to you this way. I gave you $1 million tonight. If I gave you $1 million tonight, you would not be the same person that you were yesterday. I think it would change you, whether you believe it, whether you know it or not. Now, I'm not going to say it may change you into some horrific person or something. I'm not going to say that. And it may not do you that way, but I'm just going to say you're still not going to be the same person that you were. Because now, listen to me. Now you've got $1 million. You know what I'm saying? It changes you in that perspective. Some people can handle it better than other people in some respects, but it still changes you no matter what. Because I've known a lot of millionaires, okay, and they do not think like we do. Trust me, they do not feel like we do. They do not think like we do. They're thinking along a different line than we are, in a different reality. Sad but true. Sad but true.
I have to.
And the more power you get, the more it changes you, the deeper into that darkness it takes you. That's just the way it works. I warn people about that and talk to them about it on a lot of the shows I do. I say, look, we all have an inherent darkness in us. Okay? There's an animal in each one of us. And we need to keep that animal in check. We need to keep it controlled at all times because if we turn it loose, it will destroy us eventually. That's what it will do.
Oh yeah.
But that darkness is in us, but there is also a darkness in this world. And the darkness in this world is always wanting to hook up with that darkness that's in us so that it can pull us deeper into that darkness until the darkness swallows us up, takes our humanity. And when you don't have your humanity anymore, Brenda, you don't have your soul. You lose it. That's how you lose your soul.
That's true. That is very true.
And we have to guard against that darkness on the outside and on the inside.
Yep. I know several people like that. People that are just dark people, dark souls. They don't care about anybody else but themselves. And it's kind of sad. Sometimes I feel sad for them because what is that ugliness going to get you?
Here's what I always tell people about monster hunting, okay? And I'm an old monster hunter from way back. Here's the number one rule of monster hunting. You know what that is? Do not become the monster that you are hunting.
There you go.
That's the number one rule. Yeah.
And that's a good one.
So we got to always remember this. If you want to look for a monster, all you got to do is look in the mirror.
Yep.
Because he's always waiting.
Well, that still goes on the same aspect of we're all human and none of us are ever really perfect. I'm pretty sure that when I was younger, I did things that people would have been, oh my God, that's horrible.
Here's the interesting thing, Brenda. Some of us are more monster than others.
Yeah, probably. Very much so. We're coming to the end of our 2 hours. So would you like to tell people where to get your books and how to contact you if they need help or want to help you in any way?
Well, I usually tell people I have a paranormal consulting service. If you need any kind of a session with me, that's free. If you have any kind of a paranormal problem or you just want to talk about something or something bothering you, whatever the situation, you can get in contact with me at my website, DennisWCarroll.com, or you can Gmail me at DennisWCarroll@gmail.com with any questions or anything like that. My books are available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. You just look up the author Dennis W. Carroll. I got to put the W in there. W is for wolf, by the way. I had to put the W in there because there is another Dennis Carroll, and he plays football, and I don't. Okay, yeah. So that's why I put that in there. But anyway, you can check the books out on there, and also my shows are on Monday night at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Road Less Travel with Gerald Fountain, my good friend Gerald Fountain. We do a lot of the offbeat stuff. And then Wednesday night at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I have Hunting the Shadows. And on Friday nights at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, all my shows are 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have Paranormal Point of View. That's where we do a lot of movie reviews and books and stuff like that on there as well. And if you are, like I said, if any of you have any kind of problems, anything like that, feel free to contact me anytime at DennisWCarroll.com.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dennis, for coming.
Anytime.
I'm going to let you go ahead and get out of
We
here.
always have fun.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I always look forward to when you're coming on. Definitely. But I'm going to go ahead and let you get out of here. And then I'm going to go over with everybody what I'm doing tomorrow night. So y'all stick around because I've got some stuff to talk about. So,
All right, take care.
all right. Good night, Dennis.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. So tomorrow night, make sure that you're here. I am starting something different tomorrow night. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not yet. Thank you, Ivy, Jason. Joanne, that person is the same person. They just come back with different names. I try to get rid of them as much as possible. Tomorrow night, I'm going to start here in the United States, and I'm going to go around to all of the states and the most haunted places that are in each state. And I'm going to tell stories about what happened there, why they might be haunted. And I'm going to see how that works. I think that it'll be kind of fun. And going into paranormal things, something I'm pretty familiar with anyways. So I thought it would be interesting. So I'll be here tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central. And we're going to first start with Alabama. Now, Alabama's got some very interesting haunting places. So I'm going to start there. So until tomorrow night, y'all, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And hopefully we will see you tomorrow night. And y'all have a good night. And like always, everybody, please be kind to one another. Have a good night.
Goodbye for now, from Beyond the Box.
Please join us again for Beyond the Box, Friday and Saturday evenings, from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern. Join us for more intel bombs from our extraordinary guests.
Good night, Putin. Good night, Tucker.